Stay with me as we expand our knowledge. Let's just start.
Palmer, the nephew is a very famous Jewish wealthy individual. What do you see the characteristics of successfully financial people?
Want to hear the brutal truth?
Yeah,
Sort of nasty.
you have to be nasty.
Yeah, and most of the nasty people, I'm not saying they're truly nasty, yeah, by the end they'll do tremendous charity,
All right.
but they're nasty in conduct socially, between people, so they reach their goals. And then all the nice people, they sit there and trying to scratching their head how they're ever going to make it financially in this world.
So you have to be tough or nasty? What's the right word?
The truth is that most of the successful people make it through being nasty. I'm sorry.
What about honesty or honest or this?
They could be very honest, but they're still very nasty.
As an example, what's the situation where a nice guy versus a nasty guy?
I need this amount in this deal, and it's selfish, but that's what I need. And you're not getting the deal otherwise. And it's done a whole day. And just like, the breaking through.
Tough.
Yeah.
Wait for this clip from today's podcast that was just dropped like an hour ago. So just stop for 1 minute and forget all of the drama of him and the lawsuits and just watch this, because I bet you haven't heard a Hollywood director actually talk like this about this topic.
Because I wanted men to see themselves in each of the men. I wanted men to see what happens when you do not resolve your trauma. I wanted men to see a guy like Ryle, who in his heart is a good man, be unable to control his insecurity, let his fears win and take over, and harm the person he loves the most, the one person who has helped him find himself, who has helped him believe in love again. He hurts her because he never took the time to heal. I wanted men to see that they could lose everything. And I wanted to do it in a way where, in some ways, men felt empathy for Ryle. And if they could feel empathy for Ryle, they could see themselves. The other way to make this movie, which I was really trying to avoid, is to demonize Ryle and to make him the villain. But I knew that I'd lose the men, and for the same reason I don't say toxic masculinity, I didn't want to make a movie like that, because we have enough of that. We have enough man-hating movies that exist in the world, but this is a movie about trauma and ending generational cycles. And the majority of men that abuse come from abuse. That's the data. That's what the research says. Hurt people hurt people. And the majority of men who abuse don't change. They can't change. The data also says that the only way for a man generally to stop abusing or to stop hurting a woman is for that woman to leave. And then in the next relationship, he can break the cycle. So what's it like to lose everything? What's it like to be a man, to hold your daughter, who you didn't know you'd ever have, who you didn't know you'd ever find love because you don't feel worthy of love, to finally be holding your daughter while losing her at the same time because of the harm that you inflicted. And then having to make a choice in that moment to protect your daughter from yourself because you realize you're dangerous. That was what I wanted men to emotionally experience as a cautionary tale, because and I've talked a lot about women, and I'm grateful to talk about men. And I've talked about the one Lily Bloom, the one woman in the audience, but deep down there was a hope that there'd be a man in the audience who would recognize his behavior, go and get help, and never harm. And I've had men reach out to me like that, who have thanked me for the movie. And we've stopped those men from harming because they saw what could happen to them. And for that, and for what you said, it makes it all worth it.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking.
His now wife and mother of his young son, Jack,
his wife, of course, being Hailey Bieber. Long career, long relationship. Okay. Well, over the last few years, we have seen Justin Bieber suddenly crying a lot in public, often with his wife Hailey, and many people wondered what was really going on behind those tears. Some people speculated it was them and they were breaking up, but I didn't get that gut instinct. Rather, it seemed to me that as he was making his way back to God, almost back to reality, suddenly he became very emotional, because that kind of happens for people that go through addictions and they're finding their sobriety and they're reflecting on who they were throughout those addictions. You will have these emotional breakdowns. And when it came to Justin Bieber, people wanted to know, what were those breakdowns really about? Okay. And so I'll give you just one example of what I'm speaking about. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish. And Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Did you feel protective of her? Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So, yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing. And if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters and yeah. So yeah, I just want to protect her, I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything. Protect Billie Eilish from what? From who? What is he so concerned about when he sees this young person in the industry? What exactly did he go through? Well, I think I have an idea, because just 2 years after being a 13-year-old, getting his entire career, seeing this little hopeful, joyful young 13-year-old, Justin Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like, there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
We're going crazy. So young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun, now all of a sudden he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did to Usher. A lot of this coming out via multiple lawsuits that essentially, if we were to put it in a nice context, or at least use a euphemism for something that's really disgusting, the allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher into Hollywood. And as we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew. This was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to? Allegedly up to. That seems to be very clear, that there is some veracity to those claims. Anyways, I want to also just show you this montage.
The guy who invented the pacemaker, the scientist who invented the pacemaker, is a guy named Earl Bakken. And a pacemaker works by giving the heart a little jolt of electricity, right? Keep the fibrillation going. And he is like a garage inventor who came up with this idea because he saw Frankenstein the movie in the 1930s. And it made him ask the question about could electricity save someone's life? Could it bring the dead back to life? And through science and biology, he found out, no, you can't bring the dead to life, but the right amount of electricity introduced to the right organ at the right moment can snatch death back, kind of, from life, right? He's this incredible fucking guy. He founded Medtronic. After his retirement, he moves to Hawaii, okay? And he sets up some kind of experimental shit. The shit like he couldn't do when he was a young man trying to be a professional, and that he couldn't do when he was like the head of Medtronic, right? And one of them was writing a peer-reviewed paper on the provable power of prayer.
Did you know that some ant species practice slavery by capturing other ants to serve them? The most notable example is the Polyergus ant, a species with a strong body and large, sharp mandibles. They specialize in capturing slaves to the extent that they have lost the ability to build their own nests, care for their offspring, or forage for food. They survive by invading and often enslaving relatives, the Formica ant, to serve them. Polyergus worker ants operate like soldiers, organizing fierce attacks on other ant colonies to capture pupae and larvae to bring back to their nest as slaves. Additionally, for adult Polyergus queens that want to establish a new nest, they can take advantage of the chaos to secretly infiltrate, assassinate the Formica queen. Afterward, they coat themselves with the chemical scent of the Formica queen, making the workers believe the intruder is their own queen. Some Polyergus queens even attack Formica nests on their own by spraying powerful chemicals to drive away defenders and hunt down the Formica queen. In Formica nests with multiple queens, the slave raider must eliminate all queens to become the sole legitimate ruler. The enslaved ants will obediently perform tasks such as foraging, caring for the rival's young, defending the nest, and even fighting against their own kind to serve their new master.
Women in professions to avoid, coming from a divorce lawyer, personal trainers. She's at the gym all day. Well, perhaps she has male clients. Perhaps those male clients are quite fit. Maybe they're fitter than you. Perhaps they're having an affair. I've seen it.
Here's why women in Japan are actually paying to stay in prison. See, Japan's elderly population is skyrocketing, and with it, a shocking trend. There has been a surge in elderly women committing crimes like shoplifting deliberately to get sent to prison because the loneliness on the outside is so severe. In fact, in the last 20 years, the number of elderly inmates has risen by almost 300%. See, because on the outside, these women often live alone with no family to visit them or financial support to rely on. One inmate interviewed said her 43-year-old son, who she was living with, once said to her, "I don't care when you die, I wish you'd just go away." But now she's behind bars, she has routine, people to speak with, meals, and even medical care. Rather than shouting at them, the guards go as far as changing their diapers, helping them bathe, eat, and even take their medication. One said it now feels more like an elderly home rather than a prison full of convicted criminals. There's some that even say they will pay 20 to 30,000 yen a month just to live there forever. And even though they eat their meals in a cell alone in silence, just knowing that others are around is enough.
Elon Musk just exposed Jay-Z, right? He said the man paid $200 million to help Beyonce solidify her spot with the best country album category. The problem with this is Elon Musk does not appreciate artists like Ed Sheeran. Who else he said? He named a couple other people, but he said Beyonce always winning over them and he can't understand why. Now, this man is smart. It wasn't going to take him long to figure out how and why. So when he found that out, he allegedly exposed Jay-Z. How do we feel about that? We don't care, Elon, and I'm going to tell you why. You're supposed to support your spouse.
That was easy.
You're supposed to make sure she gets what she deserves. Sometimes this world isn't fair. Matter of fact, the majority of the time this world isn't fair. So what do you have to do in business? Leverage, leverage, leverage. Use your resources against their leverage so you can have that. I mean, it's just simple business practices. Stop acting like this blowing your mind, Elon.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I don't want to say it's a race thing. But if you look at the skin of Beyonce and Jay-Z, then you look at the skin of Elon Musk and Ed Sheeran and all them he naming. So I'm going to ask you to mind your business, Elon. You could mind your business. Beyonce needed that award for whatever and however she needed it for. And we okay with that. So back up, go ahead and finish running X and making Cybertrucks.
People having a worse day than you. 1. This guy had just broken up with his girlfriend, and the next day she won $85 million in the lottery. 2. This man was arrested while getting a haircut, and this is how he ended up looking. 3. This poor guy was exploring a cave when he came face to face with a bear. 4. This guy thought he had put eye drops in his eye, but soon realized it was peppermint oil. 5. This girl took mac and cheese to another level. 6. This man was working outside at night when his wife decided to take a photo with the flash on. That's when he realized there were 4 lions watching him the whole time. 7. A woman named Debbie Stevens was so kind and generous that she donated one of her kidneys to help her boss, who needed a transplant. However, after the operation, Debbie suffered from pain and digestive issues, and when she returned after 4 weeks, the boss she had just saved was abusive toward her. Eventually, Debbie was fired from her job. 8. And finally, Nancy Perez was a 16-year-old pregnant girl who suddenly fainted outside the bathroom. Her family thought she was possessed, so they took her to a priest. Then she was taken to a hospital where the doctor declared Nancy dead. But the next day, screams and cries were coming from her grave because she was still alive. People dug her up and rushed her to a hospital where she was once again declared dead, and she was buried in the same coffin.
Pringles, they're not allowed to call themselves chips.
Wait, why?
Because before, Pringles had Pringles chips labeled on the thing.
Yeah.
But to be labeled as chips, I think, what's that, FDA? The FDA said that if you don't, if you are not making chips from actual potatoes.
Wait, it's not potato?
No Pringles?
It's not potato?
No, fam.
Shit.
It's made out of a powder, and they make it into a paste, and they heat it up, and it becomes.
But it's not like corn?
No, fam. I don't know what the fuck is in Pringles. It's not potatoes or anything corn.
It's probably corn something.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's, it's like with all these like toxic shit in it.
Ew, bruh.
But they're not allowed to label it chips because it's not chips.
Damn.
So a chip has to be a potato cut up into thin slices, either fried or put in the oven, and you can call it chips.
And then you can call it chips.
Yeah.
So Pringles are just Pringles.
Yeah, Pringles are really just Pringles, bro. They're in their own lanes.
Ew, bro.
Look, gross.
There's something I heard about like Taco Bell is the worst meat you can possibly get, and it's just passing. It's just passing like the FDA thing approved.
But regardless, they'll still go to Taco Bell.
Is it true that shepherds in biblical days would use a rod to break the leg of a wandering sheep so it would no longer wander from the flock? And the answer is yes, it's true. But there was also a greater reason. You see, if that sheep, that lamb, kept wandering off, kept going its own way, it was opening itself up to predator attack. It was opening itself up to being lost forever, and it's opening itself up to being lonely, and it also possibly would lead others astray. So the shepherd, out of love, would take his rod of correction and break the leg. Then he would carry that lamb on his neck until that leg was healed. And then that lamb would always stay close to the shepherd. And the good shepherd, sometimes, he takes the rod of correction. Not out of meanness, not out of anger. It's always out of love. Because I'm going to tell you something. I had to carry a lamb once. This lamb, we called him Rascal. He just kept busting through the fences. And one day he got caught. And he hurt himself. And he couldn't walk. So I grabbed that lamb and threw him over my shoulders to carry him to the building so he could get rest and heal. And on the way to the building where he was going to rest and heal, he pooped and he peed all over me. Have you ever thought about that? The shepherd who had to carry the lamb whose leg was broken, he had to endure the filth of the poop and the pee all over him. And he wasn't like he was going home to get a shower real quick. They lived for days, even weeks out in the field with their sheep. So they would have to live with that filth and live with that mess until they could come into another place they could get cleaned up. But they said, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it because we love our sheep. And the good shepherd says it's worth it. When he has to correct us, he says it's worth it, even to carry them through their filth and their mess, because I love my sheep. Go enjoy the shepherd. I'll see you soon.
Everyone's out here using the word abracadabra as if it's like some silly cartoon word, not knowing that it's real witchcraft and it comes with real consequences. So what does the word abracadabra mean, and where does it come from? Abracadabra originates as a Hebrew language, specifically used in witchcraft. Ada kadabri, and it means I create as I speak. You've often heard the word spelling, Spell, to create a spell. Our words have significance. Our words carry weight. Oddly, the word originated as a healing spell. Abracadabra, written in a triangle shape like this, is a healing spell. The use and origin go all the way back to the 3rd century CE. The physician Quintus Serenus Summonicus was the first one to use this as a spell, and it was to heal his patients. Putting the words in a triangular format was thought to heal people. The literal meaning of abracadabra is, I create as I speak. To explain it in a nutshell, it's a mystical word or expression used in incantations, on amulets, and it has a magical meaning of warding off misfortune, harm, or illness. And it's not just the ancient Greeks or the Hebrews who lay claim to the origins of abracadabra. Apparently the Romans used the word too. Absolutely. One of the oldest mentions of the word appears in the text of the 3rd century Roman physician Quintus Serenus Summonicus as a cure to treat malaria. So be careful when saying words. They hold power. And if you say something that can change or alter the destiny and life of another person, then there are karmic consequences for that intent.
Just because someone is religious doesn't mean they're a good person, or even a sane person. Here's an example. So this guy, his name is List, and List has a lot going for him. He has a good marriage, he has 3 kids, he lives in this huge 19-room mansion. I mean, look at that place. Plus, he's got a sweet job as vice president for a bank, so bro is doing well. But most importantly, he's very religious. Like, he and his family go to church every week. So you know he's a good person. But one day, everything changes, because boom, List suddenly gets laid off from his vice president job at the bank. And List, he doesn't know what to do. He can't tell anyone that he lost his good-paying job. That would be humiliating. So he decides to not tell anyone. He doesn't tell his family, he doesn't tell his friends. Instead, he just keeps going. He wakes up every day, he gets dressed like he always does, and he tells his family that he's going to work. But instead, he drives to the train station and he just sits in his car and reads the newspaper until it's time to head home, so that his family thinks he's going to work and they don't ask him any questions. And List does this for a few months. He just fakes going to work. I guess he's hoping that during this period he'll find another gig to keep him afloat. I don't know, it doesn't seem like a very good plan. Also, because he's not working, he obviously has no income coming in and his bills start stacking up. Particularly his mortgage for that 19-room mansion he and his family are living in. So after months of not working, he owes $11,000 on his mortgage. And this was 1971, so today's dollars he owes about 87 grand. That's a lot of money. So naturally, List starts freaking out. Like, what's he gonna do? Are he and his family gonna go bankrupt? Is he gonna have to go on welfare? And remember, he's still very religious. So List starts worrying that he's gonna lose everything and that his family is gonna get so poor that they're gonna turn their backs on his religion, and then his wife nor any of his kids will get into heaven. And so this is a big deal for List. Like, he can't have his family not getting into heaven. So he comes up with this insane plan to make sure his fam doesn't get so poor that they turn their back on his religion. Here's the plan. First, he tells everyone they're going on a big family trip, like a vacation, and he stops all the milk deliveries and newspaper deliveries to their home. Then, one afternoon, List is at home, and he gets a couple of pew-pews that he owns out of the garage, and he goes back in the house and up to his wife, and he points one of them at her, and blam, he unalives her. Then he goes upstairs where his mom is living, because I guess his mom lives in the mansion with him too, and blam, he unalives her as well. Then he goes downstairs to the kitchen and he waits for his kids to come home from school. Once they get home, he takes the pew-pews and blam, blam, he unalives them too. Then he sits down and he writes a 5-page handwritten letter to his pastor. And in the letter he explains in detail that he had to unalive his whole family in order to save their souls and make sure they get into heaven. Also, in this letter, he acknowledges that, yeah, he lost his job and he could go on welfare, but then he says he'd have to move out of that 19-room mansion that he loves so much and live somewhere that he refers to as undesirable. So this is not just about saving his family's souls, it's also that he doesn't want to live in a smaller house. Anyway, then List goes to every family photo in the house and he rips his face out from them so that police won't be able to identify him from his photos. Then he leaves all the lights on in the mansion to make it look like people are still living there. And he packs up some of his stuff and he flees. And he travels by train from New Jersey over to Michigan and then all the way down to Colorado, and he starts living there. And weeks go by, and back in New Jersey, no one thinks much about List's family being gone. I mean, they were supposed to go on a family trip, so they would be gone. But then, about a month goes by, and in the house, light bulbs start burning out and turning off one by one. And the neighbors notice, like, I don't think anyone lives there anymore. And so the neighbors end up calling the police. And police come over and they enter the mansion and they find List's family's bodies and the 5-page letter he wrote. So they know who did this. Except there's no trace of him. They don't know where he went. They have no photos to go by, so they basically have no leads. Meanwhile, List has been in Colorado, living a brand new life. He changed his identity, he changed his name, he calls himself Bob now. And Bob works different jobs, mostly in restaurant kitchens, keeping quiet, keeping a low profile. And eventually he ends up living in Denver. And he settles down there, and he finds work, and he joins a local church because, he's still very religious. And after about 5 years, Bob goes back to working in finance again. I guess he does bookkeeping for a carpet business or something. But that same year, he meets a nice woman at a church gathering. And he thinks she is fine. And they hit it off, and they start dating, and eventually they get married. Now, Bob obviously doesn't tell her or anyone else his real identity or that he murdered his last family. He keeps that a secret. But eventually, Bob and his wife, they move from Denver all the way over to Virginia. And there, they settle down and they make a nice life for themselves. And at this point, it's been around 18 years since he unalived his other family. And it seems like the world has completely forgotten about the List murders. And dude is never gonna get caught. Until... Alright, now some of you aren't from the US. Well, in the US, there's a long-running TV show called America's Most Wanted. And on the show, they talk about criminals and people who are wanted by the feds for various crimes. Well, at this time, America's Most Wanted is brand new. It's in its first year, so everyone is watching it. And one night, boom, the show airs and they do a segment talking about these unsolved murders of this family that happened back in New Jersey 18 years before. And by this point, they've figured out that the killer is List. They just don't know where he is. Now, despite him tearing himself out of all those family photos all those years ago, they actually did find some images of him. So they know what he used to look like. And on the TV show, they use those images and they get a forensic artist to make a bust of what List would look like now that he's aged almost 20 years. And this freaking bust they made, if you compare it to List, it looks almost exactly like him. Like, look at that. Like, that forensic artist nailed it. And so that night, there's this woman watching the show, and she actually used to be List's neighbor. So she sees this America's Most Wanted segment, and she's like, holy shit, that's Bob, that's my old neighbor. And so I guess she calls the police or America's Most Wanted hotline or whatever, and she reports that Bob might actually be this killer List. And about 2 weeks later, the FBI shows up to the accounting firm where Bob works, and bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And of course, he continues to insist that, no, I didn't murder anyone. My name's Bob. And the feds are like, yeah, sure, List. That's bullshit. But eventually, he confesses and he's convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he's sentenced to life in prison. And later, at 82 years old, List is in prison and he finally passes away from pneumonia. So... Also, before he finally died, he said that he hopes to be reunited with his family in heaven. Good luck with that.
They come in colours, as you can see. So we've got white, brown, and then they come scuba old as well. And a lot of donkeys in their colouring, or most of them really, have got a cross on their back. And it even exists on the white ones. You can just make it out. And that's the mark of Jesus' cross. Well, there we go. Quite interesting, really.
Have y'all noticed that all romantic movies, romantic comedies, chick flicks, all the Titanic, the Notebook, all these movies are all about someone cheating or adultery or like someone being a whore, someone cheating on this person, someone having this fantasy or desire. All the books that come out that are like romantic books are all about cheating, infidelity, all these different things. What I'm saying is that our whole lives, all these movies that we've been watching is just literally whore propaganda. That's all it is. It's teaching young girls to grow up and have these different fantasies and all. Really, that's what it is. It's like the people who love them and watch them, which is most women, they have these fantasies that they probably want to live out because of the movies. And you notice people say, oh my gosh, that's so goals. That's such goals. I want this type of love. And all the time it's horror movie propaganda teaching women at a young age, like what relationships aren't, right? And so then people get in these marriages and all these different things and they start cheating. They start thinking about other people. They start getting divorces and all these different things. It's because of what they have instilled into the minds of women, like just growing up. I can guarantee you there's not one movie that isn't about someone cheating, like a romantic comedy, chick flick, whatever you want to call it, romance movie, that isn't about the woman cheating or infidelity or adultery or something like that. And so people look at that as relationship goals. And I'm telling y'all, why y'all may think I'm talking about just that side of it. Sure, like there's a lot of things to talk about here, but what I'm saying is have y'all noticed the whore propaganda that's in every single movie? Every single movie. And they call it relationship goals. To be a whore. Crazy.
Someone was standing right here 100 years ago looking for oil. They drilled a hole in the ground 1,500 feet deep and were extremely successful in finding it, pumping that black gold out of the ground for decades. However, when the oil ran out, what happens more often than not is that these companies, these operators, go bankrupt. They scrap the equipment on top, leaving an extremely deep hole in the ground exposed to the outside air. Which might not sound like a big deal at first, but it's not just oil down there. There's methane, natural gas, or even crazy stuff like hydrogen sulfide that can kill a man with a single breath. You can see the methane coming out of this hole is moving the tissue paper, and without plugging this hole, this methane is leaking out every single minute of every single day, night and day, all year long. Which, if we were to put into terms that are easier to understand, over the course of 20 years, plugging this single well is the equivalent of taking 1,000 cars off the road or planting nearly 200,000 trees. So we count how long it fills up, takes to fill up. Got it? Time. Low tech, high reliability. The EPA estimates that all the orphan wells in the USA combined emit the CO2 equivalent of about 7 to 20 million metric tons per year, or about 2 to 5 million cars worth of exhaust, just pumping those fumes into our planet-sized garage. As the sun sets on the third day, the well is officially sealed and plugged. One down, 2,999,999 left to go.
Drake recently released a picture on his Instagram and everyone's trying to figure out what it means. No one understands it except for me. I'm Song Theory and I know exactly what these wires represent and I'm going to explain it to you right now. So first of all, I wanted to know where this picture came from and I looked it up. Several electrician websites have this very same picture that teach you what these wires are all about and what the colors represent. And all he did was just flip the picture. Now, I knew these wires had to mean something, and I only knew one person in my life that could help me understand this, and that was my dad. My dad has been an electrician for decades, so I contacted him and asked him, hey, what do these wires represent? Why are they important? And can you tell me what they could be connected to and help me understand what this all means? Now, as I waited for the answer, I know one thing. Drake hates Kendrick Lamar, and this picture has something to do with Kendrick Lamar, his music, or something like that. And once my father answered the question, I realized I was right. My dad answered back and he said, those wires are usually standard twisted, but they also go into cameras, speakers, etc. And then it all made sense. Drake is going to cut the cord to the speaker so we can't hear Kendrick Lamar anymore. If these wires are to a speaker and he's cutting them, that could mean that he's threatening lawsuit to Kendrick Lamar, could be threatening his life, could be threatening his music, or he might have something else that's going to come out that's going to destroy Kendrick Lamar, and he won't be able to release anything else because he'll be so embarrassed. So I think Drake is going to continue this beef and drop something super huge soon. Tell me what you think in the comments.
What the fuck happened at the Grammy Awards? Here are the 4 strangest moments you couldn't miss. Like every year, someone always speaks up to say that Beyoncé should win. But this joke is getting less and less funny. This time, it was none other than Miley Cyrus who announced that Beyoncé deserved the award.
The Grammy goes to... Even if it's not you, Beyoncé, I might just say this.
And of course, Kendrick Lamar didn't take it well. Then we literally witnessed a ritual or an even stranger spectacle when Kanye West asked his wife to take off her coat and fully reveal herself to the press. Bianca's father, Leo Sansouris, was furious after this appearance. Next, Jaden Smith showed up in a very weird outfit. But what was even more disturbing was his face. He looked younger. He had the exact same face as in 2016. Finally, I haven't seen many people talk about this moment, even though it was probably the most shocking of all. A French rock band won an award, but during their acceptance speech, they were making satanic hand signs, and everyone was laughing and clapping, as if a large part of the audience knew exactly what those signs meant, and were all in on it together.
He knew all it would take is his wife's body to upset the Carter's night. That's why he was there. He was there to piss off his friends that don't want to be friends with him no more. And he brought the next version of the wife that they hated. I honestly believe that there was a bigger meaning to Bianca out there. I really think he said, since y'all like the art of distraction and illusion, let me create my own, baby. Get out that Reynolds rap. We going to the Grammys.
And he did, because nobody really talks about the fact that Beyonce without a banjo won.
Yeah, best country album for country scented album.
That to me, that just took it too far for me. That she tried to make a country album and then it got a Grammy with a banjo.
Understand this?
I accidentally came across this on the Library of Congress's website. And this makes so much sense to me. I've never seen this. You guys might have already seen this, but this is a square and stationary Earth map done by a professor in the 1800s. It makes total sense of the 4 angels at the 4 corners of the Earth. It has our circular, flat, stationary Earth. It has the Polaris, North Pole, and then the projections of the sun and moon. And this can be interpreted as the donut Earth or the torus field. And this would make sense of Drake's bowl. And this would tie into the Bible verses about the potter and the potter's wheel. And this would tie into the signet rings, which if you don't know, they're rings that stamp patterns into clay or wax. And this makes sense of the ice wall. And this makes sense of the pouring out of the bowls at the end. They're probably pouring out giant bowls into our giant bowl. Scientists attribute the equatorial bulge to the rotation of the Earth, but the simple answer for this would just be that the sun is directly over those parts, so it's warmer and it expands, making the sea levels slightly higher. TikTok, this is satire for entertainment purposes only.
Don't have a head, and their facial features where they should be are on their torso. These are the only non-human sapient sentient entities that I've covered so far, and they're the main ones here on these islands. Zerzura is nicknamed God's Deception, and that's because of the factors that I just mentioned. The reality of things here is just not true. You could see one thing, but it's not actually occurring. There's things without heads walking around, and people in places that don't exist, and entire civilizations that you can't trust. It's a beautiful land, but a mysterious land. Gigantic and enigmatic mushrooms grow, and they have different effects in the environment, and if you eat them, and it's just a whole ordeal. Continuing up and around the wall, we have reached the huge, massive landmass of Gemini. Now, Gemini is physically the second biggest continent, the whole thing together, that I'll be talking about today, and with it comes a share of eccentricities that are beyond weird. In Gemini, everything comes in pairs, so every natural occurring thing has 2 of them. If there's mountains, there's two identical mountains. If there's creatures, there's two identical creatures. If there's plants, and so on and so you get it. Gemini is also home to one of the only sentient, non-human beings in the entire Atlas world, and those are known as the Zwado beings. Now, these beings are known for their peaceful nature and their ability to reconcile with their enemies. They sort of look like hippo-elephant type creatures with short legs and long trunks off the front of their face. They also are known for their long tongues. They are extremely kind and social creatures, and despite the fact that they're not human, they can interact with humans pretty well. I find it kind of wholesome that in the lore, if you read it, these creatures they're sentient, so they think like humans do, sort of, and they try to do these daily tasks like live life, but they can't because they're kind of clunky and they have these long tusks and tendrils and stuff. So they oftentimes have to help each other out because they just love each other so much as a race, as a being. So they always help each other out doing these tasks, and I thought that was pretty wholesome. When the continent of Geminia was first explored and first found many moons ago by the Spaniards that colonized it, these Zwado beings were almost wiped out through hunting to complete extinction. Geminia is home to so many different ethnicities from our world, and it's all very specific.
Martin Luther King was not who they say he was. And it's all right here. Martin Luther King has personal conduct. Rustin also stated that members of King's entourage had naked girls running up and down the corridors of the hotel. And this is where they stayed. They were also bringing white prostitutes into their rooms. So Bayard Rustin was one of the King's key advisors. He's the one that stated all of this. That's how close he was to MLK. But it doesn't stop there. MLK also had a reputation of heavy drinking. This here is where it takes a big turn. You can actually read it for yourself if you like. You can pause it here. So in Memphis, Tennessee, MLK attended a Baptist convention. So these ministers arranged to rent from family, and they told them they needed this for meditation. But they ended up using these apartments for this and drinking parties. Guys, these are the files and they're here. I mean, what else can you say? The question is, do you guys see Martin Luther King the same? Can you ever see him the same ever again?
Kanye West is now losing brand deals, and artists like Travis Scott are cutting ties with him after his crazy Twitter rant this morning. As many of you guys know by now, this morning Kanye West went on a crazy Twitter rant where he was disrespecting Jewish people, going at his fans and calling them broke, admitting that he was controlling his wife and more. There's just some of the crazy tweets that Kanye West was saying. As you can see, he said, "I turned down 3 photos this week with Make-A-Wish kids in wheelchairs." And these are some tweets of Kanye West supporting the evil man with the mustache, with him saying he was so fresh, and then he was also like, "Please call me Yadoff." Unfortunately, even Kanye's fans got a little bit of his hate because he also admitted to not caring about his fans and him only wanting to tour because of the money. As you can see, he ended up saying, "I tour for the money. I'd rather be playing Last of Us Part 1 and 2, which was made by Jewish people. Good work. Thank you." Really, after Kanye West went on this tirade of hate speech, a bunch of brands and partnerships that were working with him have just announced that they are going to be dropping him and no longer work with him. As you can see right here, this brand today ended up saying, "Our partnership with Yeezy has reached its conclusion. The December drop was the last for me. I'm deeply grateful to Ye and the entire Yeezy team for a memorable experience and ones that will always stay with me." And it doesn't stop there, because even crypto companies that were planning to work with Kanye on a Bitcoin have just stated that they're no longer going to be working with Kanye. As you can see right here, this company called MoPay said the only way to make it stop, and they took a photo of them blocking Kanye on Twitter. Things just continue to get worse because Travis Scott also officially cut ties with Kanye West, as he is no longer following him on Instagram or Twitter. As you can see right here, this is a close-up of Travis Scott's Instagram, and he has been following Kanye West for over 10 years, and as of right now, when you search up his following, Kanye is no longer on that following list. And it's the same thing for Twitter. If you go on Travis Scott's Twitter and if you look at everybody he's following, Kanye West is no longer on there, and Travis Scott has been following him since 2013. And there's even a chance that Spotify and Apple Music might no longer have Kanye West's music on their platform, because Kanye hinted this by saying, "If I get taken off of streaming services, it's only going to make me richer. Any and every control tactic you have at this point only makes me richer." Maybe to a certain extent, this is Kanye's plan, where he wants to get taken off of streaming services. That way he could sell his music directly to his fans, and then his fans could pay it to him without having Spotify or Apple Music take a cut, making Kanye West richer. It's only been 5 hours since Kanye West's rant, and brands are already dropping Kanye, along with artists like Travis Scott are no longer going to be working with him. Do you guys think that Kanye West is innocent here, or do you guys think that he fell off and he's washed? Let me know.
So did you see the video of the devilfish? The fish that they are calling the devilfish swimming to the surface? And do you know what that fish symbolizes? All right, if you ain't see it, look at this shit right here. Look at that shit. Once you find out what that shit means, it's gonna be even scarier. Oh, nah. First of all, let's start with scientists saying that you are not even supposed to ever see that fish that close to land. They're saying that there's no way that that fish should be up that high. That fish usually swims between 200 and 2,000 meters down. What is that fish doing here? So they noticed this fish between Greece and Spain. Now you gotta ask yourself what's going on with Greece. Since January 27th, there have been more than 1,000 earthquakes in Greece. They're saying that seeing this fish could be a call from the Most High. Seeing that fish, the devilfish, that close to the surface would be a once in a lifetime thing. So now you gotta ask yourself, what's going on? Why is that fish here? I guess we're gonna find out. I'm out.
This video that I'm about to show you guys really did open my eyes up and kind of had my jaw drop. Let me know your personal thoughts in the comments, but I'm just still trying to get over this.
Who is the Antichrist? I've got this question a lot in my DMs so many times, so I figured I would address who I believe it is. A lot of people message me saying they know for sure it's Trump. A lot of people message me and say that they know for sure it's Obama. Understand something, the Antichrist is not going to be a hated person at first. Revelation 13 talks about how the Antichrist will be loved and worshiped and followed all across the world. Everyone's going to love this man at first. Before I get into it, I want you to understand everything that God does, Satan mimics in his own little ways. Just as God sent Jesus to die on the cross for all of our sins, Satan will also send his son, the Antichrist. So no, I do not think that it will be Trump because a lot of people hate that man. I don't think that it will be Obama because a lot of people hate that man. I do, however, believe the Antichrist will be this man right here, Mr. Beast. Also, the Bible refers to the Antichrist as the Beast. He is literally the biggest social media influencer of all time. The whole entire world pretty much knows who this man is. Out of all this man's main YouTube channels, he has over 450 million subscribers. It doesn't even include all of these other subscribers I'm fixing to show you. He has channels for people in Mexico that speak Spanish. He has channels for all of these different countries. Here's his channel for people in Brazil. Keep in mind, I did not add any of these subscribers up. Remember, the whole world will love this man at first. Here's him in Africa building over 100 wells for these people. Very nice and generous of him, right? Here's him giving over 100 houses away. Very, very generous of this man, right? Keep in mind, the whole world is loving and praising this man for all the great, generous things he's doing. Let's dig deeper because it's about to get very interesting. Isn't it funny that he said he would run for president and everybody is behind him, backing him, saying, hey man, we would support you. You're so great. We love you. Let's take a look at Revelation 13:2. It says, and the beast I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like a bear's, and his mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. Satan gives him his power. Remember, the head of a leopard and the mouth of a lion. The name Mr. Beast alone should be a major red flag. The Bible describes the Antichrist as the Beast. Keep in mind, this dude could have picked any name, anything, but he calls himself Mr. Beast. Now here's a part that's really about to make you scratch your head. Remember when I said in the very beginning that God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins? We are his children. Those that believe in me will not perish. All you have to do is believe in him if you want eternal life. Just listen. Well, Satan will send his son, the Antichrist, and the Antichrist, the Bible says, will force all great, free, small, rich, powerful. It doesn't matter who you are. You will all be forced to receive a mark on your right hand or your forehead. And those that do not get it will be persecuted. When you accept this mark, you become part of Satan's. There is no going back. Your eternity is sealed. And if you don't get this mark, you get persecuted. When you take this mark, you literally become a child of Satan's. Now, this is Mr. Beast's girlfriend, Thea. And Thea wrote a book. Out of all the titles this woman could have chose, just wait, it's gonna blow your mind. She writes a book called The Marked Children, where children are born with magical marks on their bodies. If that doesn't make you sit and scratch your head, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Oh man, look how nice he is. Over 1,000 blind people can see again. Sounds pretty biblical to me, huh? The Bible says that the Antichrist will be wounded by the sword, but yet he lives. In other words, he will suffer a fatal wound and come back to life. When he comes back to life, that is when Satan will enter him. For everyone saying, oh no, Mr. Beast is just too nice, he would never do anything like this, Satan himself was once an angel. I'm not saying 100% that he is the Antichrist, but he's a very good candidate to be one.
People are freaking out after finding out these people have lived underwater for 1,000 years. These people, known as the Bajau people, live in the Philippines and across Southeast Asia. They have evolved in the most crazy way and literally live underwater. Over the past 1,000 years, yes, 1,000, these people have lived in these makeshift houses on the water, just in the middle of the sea. They spend their days on the water, in the water, hunting, just living a very simple life. Now, they also get the name the sea nomads because of the way they've evolved. So these people, as you can see in the photo right here, do not have to wear goggles or anything to go under the water. They have evolved. Their eyesight has evolved, meaning they can see underwater crystal clear like we would with a mask on. But they can also hold their breath for an extremely long time, reportedly up to 5 to 10 minutes, which, I don't know. And a lot of them also purposely burst their eardrums so that they can deal with the pressure when diving to deeper depths. The people may have developed, but their way of living hasn't really changed at all since 1,000 years ago.
This is absolutely insane. Kanye West is now selling the hoodie that was worn by Cassie Ventura in this horrific, infamous video of P. Diddy assaulting her at that hotel. I honestly could not believe that that statement was true. I went to the website and checked, and this is in fact true. And not only that, but he's calling it the Love Hoodie, which is absolutely barbaric considering that this hoodie is from a DV video, and the guy, I guess the kicker, the joke of this is that the guy doing this assault likes to call himself Brother Love. Kanye didn't stop there. He went on to post this still frame that's from that horrific video with the caption, "You have to truly be in love to get to the point of risking everything." And there's more. Like I said, these two are teaming up and they're actually selling P. Diddy's merchandise, his fashion line called Sean John. That is being sold on Kanye's website, and they are going to split those proceeds 50-50. I also could not believe that that was true, so I went to the Yeezy website. The sweatshirt is in fact on there, and underneath, Sean John t-shirts. From prison, Diddy responded to Kanye, thanking him for his support and reposting his tweets about the collaboration, saying, "Thank you, Brother Yee." I just have to say the fact that he is mocking this situation, I don't care what his excuse is. This is not just, oh, Kanye's being mentally ill. There is absolutely nothing that could excuse this behavior from him. There's nothing funny about it. There's no artistic, oh, he got you guys, he's getting the attention. This is blatantly supporting a monster. Now, I don't know if this is because he knows for sure that tapes of him are going to come out and that he's going to be in the same boat, so he's just getting ready to join Diddy. I don't know if that's the case, but whatever is happening, it is disturbing, and I want to know what you guys think.
You want to know what? AI?
I believe Kanye was trying to tell us all along. Y'all remember this music video, right? This was Kanye music video. Famous. Look at the bed. That was a 50-foot bed. The same bed that Mr. Diddy got in his backyard. Like I said, was Kanye trying to explain something here? Also, do y'all remember the workout plan? Kanye's music video? Y'all gotta take a look at this and watch the people who's in this music video. Is he trying to explain something then? Look, y'all, pay attention. See the kids? Just watch. Make sure y'all look at all the faces that's up there. Was he trying to explain something? As always, y'all let me know what y'all think about this down below in the comments. Shit crazy, fool.
We're looking into a picture going around online this month.
It claims to show a screenshot of a 2002 episode of The Simpsons that eerily mirrors real-life events.
The Simpsons. The way it has entertained us for over 2 decades with its sharp wit and satire. But is there more to it than meets the eye? From time to time, this animated sitcom seems to have made predictions that leap from the screen into real life. From breakthroughs in technology to earth-shattering events worldwide, their foresight is nothing short of uncanny. As 2025 approaches, let's delve into some of the eeriest predictions. Coincidence, clever writing, or something much more mysterious? Stick with us until the very end, where we reveal the truth behind these astounding reveals.
Not the end of the world.
Let's start with a spine-chilling moment that took the internet by storm. A 2002 episode of The Simpsons shows Donald Trump touching a glowing orb, flanked by 2 Middle Eastern-looking men. Fast forward to 2017. President Trump, alongside the King of Saudi Arabia and the President of Egypt, recreated this surreal image in real life during the inauguration of a global center. How could a cartoon from decades ago capture this moment so accurately? Was it pure coincidence? Or did The Simpsons tap into something far beyond our understanding? Probably the most spoken about predictions have to do with Donald Trump's presidency. First mentioned in the 1998 episode Bart to the Future, this was a huge shock to the world in 2016. And it doesn't stop there. It also predicted a Trump 2024 campaign way in advance. The show, in another episode, teased that Ivanka Trump was going to run for president in 2028. Is The Simpsons mapping out America's political future, or are we living out a script they have already written? Artificial intelligence is no longer the fantasy of sci-fi movies. In a 2016 episode, The Simpsons took us to an amusement park completely run by robots.
My cat's breath smells like cat food. That's nice, Ralph, but we're sort of in a hurry. I choo you.
What starts off as an interesting attraction soon spirals into chaos as the AI rebels against humanity. Today, this doesn't seem so far-fetched. From self-driving cars to robot waiters in Japan, AI is becoming a part of everyday life. But with experts like Jürgen Schmidhuber warning of runaway technological growth, could The Simpsons be hinting at a darker future for us all? Imagine a world where one can understand a baby's every cry, giggle, and gurgle. In the classic episode, The Simpsons introduced a device that translates a baby's sounds into words, and at that time, it was hilarious and far-fetched. Today, though, researchers are studying sound analysis technology that could well just make this a thing. Could this invention change parenting forever, with sleepless nights now a distant memory? It's another of those Simpsons predictions that treads a fine line between comedy and chilling accuracy. What if you could have a 5-star meal without having to leave your living room? In one freaky Treehouse of Horror episode, Homer and Marge dine on virtual food while donning VR headsets. While it sounded utterly ridiculous at the time, it's companies today working on immersive dining with the use of virtual reality. From cruise ships to high-tech restaurants, the concept of VR dining is getting more concrete, proving once again how The Simpsons called it. In an episode with a holographic invitation, The Simpsons showed us what could well be our future. One where holograms replace our regular means of communication. Nowadays, high-definition holograms are not just fantasies. Already, devices such as Dremok blow our minds with 3D projections. Is this the next step in digital evolution? Think about a world where holographic messages will be as normal as video calls today. It is exciting and partly creepy to think about what the future holds. In one surreal moment, The Simpsons once took it even further, with subliminal messages in pop music. A boy band's hit single actually had hidden encouragement to join the Navy. Preposterous, right? Well, history teaches us that the medium of music has been used as a form of propaganda and persuasion. Maybe this goofy episode was really one of those quiet little reminders about how easily our minds can be controlled. In the 1993 episode Marge in Chains, Springfield grapples with a flu epidemic that eerily resembles real-life pandemics.
Mother, get an extra special hug ready. I bought you a new juicer. Good lord. Flu germs entering every orifice in my head.
The COVID-19 crisis unfolded more than 2 decades later, strangely reminiscent of how the show plotted the story. In the 90s, this premise, a virus leaping from unusual objects into humans, seemed unreachable. Then came 2020. Was this another example of The Simpsons forecasting the future, or the weakness of our globally interconnected overexposure? Flying cars, those things of science fiction dreams, and another one of those Simpsons predictions. In a 2005 episode, Bart and Lisa see a future of flying cars as common as bicycles. Well, companies like Samsung Sky will turn that into your reality. Recently, their Switchblade flying car took to the skies for 500 feet, inching us toward a world where jams up in the air could happen. Still, at $170,000, this is one futuristic convenience still out of reach for many. The thought of that Simpson-esque future does not seem so far-fetched anymore. There's this sense of foreboding subtext to some Simpsons episodes, like the apocalypse is going to happen. From rogue AI and global pandemics to environmental collapse, the show has subtly painted a world teetering on the edge. In one episode, Springfield is engulfed in chaos as society crumbles, a terrifying glimpse of what might occur should humanity lose its way.
Doomsayer Homer Simpson is predicting the world will end next Wednesday. Homer, what turned you from sad drunk to mad monk?
Funny story, Kent. It's the end of the world!
Could these episodes be cautionary tales, urging us to act before it's too late? Finally, we revisit an older episode where Homer jokingly warns about World War III. While it was meant to be a comedic jab, today's escalating global tensions make it feel like a haunting prophecy. Could The Simpsons be hinting at events far graver than we'd like to imagine? But let's not forget, the heart of The Simpsons is its ability to balance dark humor with hope. Even in the most catastrophic scenarios, it manages to remind us of the resilience of humanity. From Marge's unwavering optimism to Lisa's boundless intellect, there's always a glimmer of light. Maybe these predictions are not just warnings, but calls to action, to innovate, to prepare, and to hope for a brighter future. So, what can we make from everything? Extremely astute Simpsons writers, or is it something mystical that happens? We're already plunged into the year 2025, but one thing continues. This animation-based sitcom repeatedly will blur fantasy into reality, leaving us with unexplained questions to date. Until next time, stay inquisitive. Keep asking questions.
The UAPs have come to me and sent me another message. This time it is about the Super Bowl tomorrow, February 9th, 2025. The Kansas City Chiefs win 31-28. Patrick Mahomes wins MVP. Travis Kelce runs the ball for 85 yards. Blake Lively shows up in Brittany Mahomes' suite, and Brittany kicks her out. Travis Kelce also proposes to Taylor Swift at halftime, but he drops the ring somewhere on the stage and they can't find it. A stray cat runs across the field third quarter. Jalen hurts himself. And what else did they tell me?
Can we do that?
Bibili ang siya. Ito mo.
Couple présidentiel sur un bateau, et derrière Brigitte, dans son plus beau maillot, en regardant de plus près, on peut voir que elle a son téléphone dans son maillot sûrement pour ne pas le perdre. Le saviez-vous? La mère d'Emmanuel Macron fut médecin conseil à la sécurité sociale, en charge du suivi des personnes transgenres. Candace Owens subit énormément de pression en ce moment. En attendant, Emmanuel Macron attend tranquillement devant son ordinateur la fameuse vidéo qui fait tant parler. Candace Owens aurait reçu les informations de Xavier Possard sur cette photo. On peut voir Brigitte Trogneux sur les genoux de sa mère et de l'autre côté son frère. Candace Owens a subi énormément de pression de la part du couple présidentiel en France. Elle aurait été attaquée pour harcèlement ou diffamation, mais aux États-Unis, la liberté d'expression est vraiment une liberté marquée dans la Constitution. Xavier, lui, il aurait envoyé les photos de Brigitte étant jeune. En combinant la photo et l'intelligence artificielle, on peut voir le visage qu'elle aurait maintenant. Ce qui n'est pas le cas actuellement, elle a plus de ressemblance avec son frère Jean-Michel Trogneux. Tu trouves qu'il y a une ressemblance, toi?
And we've come to the end of the video. This was truly mind-bending, mind-blowing, rabbit hole. Like, it gave me a whole lot of, you know, my mind was all messy, turned up. Right, and I hope you enjoy this because it was really nice. Like, this is very nice. This is very thrilling. It gives, you know, it gave a lot of, you know, uncertainty and also surprises. Right, and I hope you enjoy this. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.